took us from a smallish $9 million company to nearly $1 billion in 5 years, because in order to get those numbers, you've got to sell a lot of shoes.
Wow.
And the demand was immense. They're too big. They're too big to fight. I mean, that worried me quite a bit. And being smaller, you can be quicker.
Yeah.
You know, you can turn things around so much quicker, and that's the advantage.
Welcome to your podcast, Get in the Ring. Here, we invite champions of life and business to share their best fights, best punches, and all their learnings over the ring. My name is Jose Ochoa, an award-winning Latino entrepreneur in the United States, and author of the book, Get in the Ring, an entrepreneur's guide for the fucking real world. Today, it's a very special episode. We have the opportunity to have a conversation with the one and only Joe Foster, the founder of Reebok. This interview was filmed during the celebration of the 88th birthday anniversary of Joe Foster in Florida. I had the privilege to be invited to the table with a very private, select group of people. So thank you so much, Joe, for the invitation. Thank you for the time you give us to the podcast, and I hope you guys enjoy this great conversation with Joe Foster. Welcome to our new podcast, Get in the Ring with Jose Ochoa. Today it's an extremely special day because yesterday we had a blast celebrating Joe's 88th birthday.
Oh, we did.
Here in Florida, because Joe is doing business, is doing a speaking tour in the United States,
right.
And he was so kind to give us a little window to talk briefly with him in our podcast. So, Joe, thank you so much. Joe is the founder, a co-founder of Reebok, the global brand that outshadow Nike and Adidas on the 80s and 90s. So Joe was the mastermind in the back and the brain of this company, also the muscles, right?
That's
Reebok.
That's good of you to say so, yes. I think I was one of a team. We had a brilliant team, Jose. We really did. And that counts a lot. Teamwork counts a lot.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, to scale up a company like you did, it requires a extremely great crafted team of talent, right? That you put together.
Well, yes, and it is surprising because the challenge was immense. The rate that aerobics grew, we found that white space. That white space was aerobics, and it took us from a smallish $9 million company up to nearly $1 billion in 5 years. So it needed a lot of people doing a lot of work to get the product, as much as anything, to get that product, because in order to get those numbers, you've got to sell a lot of shoes.
Wow.
And the demand was immense.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, we all know the story of Reebok. If you want to know more about all the details, deep details about how Joe Foster created and scaled up Reebok, plus the heritage, from family on how they create Reebok, I invite you to order the book, Shoemaker in English, Crea Sneakers en Español, and you can order it on Amazon, online, and it's also on Audible available. So it's amazing. So Joe, our podcast is about, I want to thank you also for the foreword of my book, on my book, Getting the Ring, which is very, very successful, and have your signature there. So as you know, on the book, we compare, or we talk about the narrative of how similar is boxing life, right?
Right,
With
yes.
business life,
Yeah.
right? It's
Right.
a lot of risk, teamwork, and putting together a great strategy, resiliency, falling once, over and over again, but standing up again to keep the fight, right?
Absolutely.
In the business arena, it's perpetual, right? On the boxing is, 12 rounds. So, based on that narrative, I want to ask you something about utilizing that narrative. So let me put it here. So, based on that narrative, Joe, when do you consider that you step up into the ring of business? What's the event when you consider, you know what, that was the day that I step up into the ring?
Well, first let me say, Jose, I read your book, and I was fascinated. I was fascinated how you make that sort of collaboration between a boxing match and what you have to do in business. And yeah, you do get knocked down a few times. You do have to get up again. Yeah. You don't get counted out. So I love the book, and I think with Reebok, it was a matter of it's how do you scale? What is the next thing you do? We started off in the north of England, and our competition in those days was Adidas. And with Adidas, you take Adidas as a big heavyweight, and we're little flyweights. We're just smaller. So instead of mixing it with Adidas and taking the punches, we just ran around the ring. We dodged him. We looked for spaces where we could be that Adidas wasn't. So finding those spaces, and we call them white spaces because we knew we couldn't go head to head in soccer with Adidas. They just far too big, far too much money. So we did rugby, which was a smaller sport. We did cross-country running, track and field. We could get some nice areas there. So for us, it was a matter of we needed to put some weight on before we could actually go and trade punches with something like Adidas. And so finding those white spaces was great. And the first thing is, we want to scale. So we're in our little field that was okay. What do? Do we go to different places? Do we expand our territory, or do we expand our offerings? And the problem with expanding offerings was like going into soccer. Well, that's going into the lion's den. We don't do that. So for me, it was always the USA. The USA was a big territory, and a lot of things going on over there, and we felt sure we could take a piece of that. So that's why I spent 11 years, can you believe it? 11 years trying to get into America. I did eventually, and this for me is your sort of the reference to boxing. It's finding the spaces, make sure you don't take too many hits. You know, if you can avoid being hit, you can grow, get stronger, you can get more used to the ring, and then when you really get big, you do have to get in there and slug it out.
in the heavyweight, yeah. Right. So wow. So basically, it's the, you visualize the strategy and the weaknesses of your opponent, right? And yes. Then you elaborate in those spaces instead of just going on brutal force one-on-one, right? So
absolutely.
Very smart.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the reference has sort of been in boxing, if you're just trading punches, you only need to get the wrong one and you're down, and that's it.
Wow.
If you want to stay in that ring for longer, you avoid getting hit.
So strategy, so on your point of view, strategy, it's more powerful than just direct punches, right?
Oh, it is indeed. There are many ways, but if you don't have the funds, you need finance, and in my early days, getting finances, so I say, okay, we're going to go head-to-head with soccer, but we need millions of dollars to do this. Okay, but we didn't have that. We had to bootstrap our way up, get our way up to where we could find these different spaces. And once we found aerobics, that took us, as I say, from a 9 million to almost 1 billion, and that gave us the strength. We could then go into basketball. The American market was so important to us, and so it's a question, well, soccer wasn't here. American football, yes, but the big one for us was basketball. So we moved to basketball, we moved to tennis, and then we could move the categories. We could add categories on because we overtook Nike, we overtook Adidas, we became #1 at that time. So we had a bit of strength.
Wow.
So we could take them
very
on.
smart. So Joe, on that fight, what do you consider that it was your best punch to the opponent? What was that you say, you know what, our best punch was this?
Well, they stood and watched us running around the ring and watched us supply all these girls with nice aerobic shoes, and they said, no. And we just grew and grew. So our best punch in this one was really getting the opposition to just sit there and just take us for something small, something wouldn't happen, and when it did happen, we got them off guard. So we just got them off guard. They had their arms down, and we sucker punched them with aerobics.
Wow. And so on the other side, what do you consider it was the worst punch that you received during your scaling up strategy?
Well, depends. There are so many. We nearly went out of business a couple of times because we had to register our brand. This is so important, because if somebody sees your brand and decides that, well, we could make those shoes, yeah, we can use that name. I mean, I was once told when we were small, look, Joe, if Adidas or Nike say that we have registered Reebok, you can't fight them. They're too big. They're too big to fight. I mean, that worried me quite a bit. Like, what do you mean? Our name is Reebok. How can somebody? But they didn't. These guys, they're Nike, they're Adidas. Why do they want to be Reebok? They don't want to be Reebok until Reebok is big.
Yes.
And then it's too late for them to sort of say, no, we're Reebok. But so the law is very difficult if you're small trying to fight something big. So you're better off not fighting that. Yeah. You're better off doing the dodging about. Yes, use the ring.
Wow. Okay. So Joe, to finalize, I would like to put this. Imagine this: that we are in the ring. It's a championship fight, right? Championship fight, and so your opponent in one corner represents the current market of 2023. So on the other corner, which is the boxer that you are going to help, it's representing the entrepreneurs on 2023. So you being the corner man of that entrepreneur on that championship fight, what's your advice to that boxer that it's about to fight, I mean, on brutal confrontation with the current 2023 market?
Well, I think the first thing that he needs to, as a new guy in the ring, he needs to know who he's fighting. He needs to know everything about who he's fighting, what his weaknesses are, where he's made mistakes. Yeah. He needs to exploit the possibilities. It's a bit like us looking for wide space. He's got to look for a way around this big guy who's the champion already. And to be that champion, you've got to be clever. You've got to be clever, because Absolutely. When you come in, we're not talking about another big guy, we're talking about the big guy's the champion. And to become a champion, it's not just a matter of becoming a big guy, it's becoming clever. It's being able to sidestep, being able to look for the weak spots, look for the areas where you can you can get in under that punch, you can dodge that one. Yeah. So you can be smarter, faster, quicker. And being smaller, you can be quicker. Yeah. You can turn things around so much quicker, and that's the advantage. So you look for your advantages, and that's the way you're going to beat the big guy who's really stood there and he's the champ. Just be a bit quicker.
Great advice for sure. I mean, being small, it's a disadvantage, but also it's a huge advantage because you can be fast. I mean, be responsive, pivot, and evolve to different situations, right? To the market. So Joe, I want to thank you so much. And I just realized probably this is the first podcast having for Latin America. Will be on Spanish and English, the podcast. Okay. So I think this is the first one where your voice can be listening into Latin America and the Mexican and Latin market, right?
Oh, right. That's great, because I love. We have the book. It's called Crea Sneakers rather than Shoemaker. That was the advice. Create sneakers. And in Spanish, I'd like a few guys to buy that book and read it, because I think they'll probably learn something, maybe learn history. Because we're history now. Reebok, no, the history goes back to the 1890s, and so it's an adventure, and maybe business is different today, but the principles are the same.
Correct.
The principles are the same. Be fast, be light on your feet. Look for the spaces, look for the opportunities, and I think the book will tell you that. So, and it'd be good for it to be. For people who can read, will read Spanish, to buy that book.
Sure, and you know what? Me being a Mexican as well, we need more of that inspiration. We need to feed our brains and our souls more with stories like yours, like real stories of how a small company can evolve to a multi-billion-dollar. I mean, it's doable. And we need more inspiration like that. So I truly recommend Crea Sneakers for Joe Foster. Is the story of Reebok. And thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Thank you for giving me this window. And something that you want to say to the Mexican and Latin American market, just to finalize?
Well, all I can say is that this guy is a great friend of ours. We love being with him, and I can tell you his book, it's amazing. It really is amazing. I didn't think you could make that relationship between business and boxing so simple, but it is. It's not complicated. Dodges the punches. It's great. So please buy his book. Don't forget to buy mine as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Joe.
It's a pleasure.
No.
Jose, it's a pleasure.
Thank you.